you'll be breaking $1 million, I think, within the next 12 to 18 months, right?
I ran that clinic single-handedly for 2 years.
What would be your advice to somebody who's thinking of starting any kind of business, but is sitting on the fence, maybe going, oh, should I do it?
I think you need to ask yourself,
What do you mean by that? When did you start getting involved in the wellness industry as a whole?
so NutriZen was really born through, I have a really good friend who runs an amazing hydrotherapy clinic. So Charlie and I, my wife, had the idea for offering vitamin injections. So one Friday of every month at Nikki's clinic, we offered a vitamin injections morning just to see if there's any interest. And that's really where the genesis of the idea came from. And we just used that as the kind of, the testing ground to how are people responding to these things.
Yep.
What was the feedback? And very, very quickly, this absolutely snowballed. And that's where the shed was born.
Well, that's a really poignant lesson for a lot of people who are starting businesses to go, like, how can you do it in a way that doesn't put your family and everything at risk while you test the offer, test the market, and test that there's a product market fit here.
Yeah. And then bang, COVID, lockdown.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, everyone wanted to understand what was going on in their bodies.
Health became the top of everyone's agenda.
And that was a massive catalyst for our improvement.
Somebody was talking to you about investment.
Literally in the first maybe 18 months of us operating, I've got about 2 or 3 offers of investment.
Yeah.
And then when we met, I remember you saying, you don't need investment, you need to...
If you're in that space, bringing investors on can cause a massive amount of pain in my experience.
That was a fantastic step.
Let's just speak to the blood test, because I think it's an important part of the business proposition that you've developed is you really like to start with that data first so that you're acting on fact.
That's the place to start for me. Let's look at the numbers. What's your body telling us? And then once we have that data, then we can formulate a plan moving forward. That makes recommending treatments much easier because we know which ones people are most likely to respond to based on their blood work.
From a marketing standpoint, what have you done marketing-wise to grow?
Genuinely, entrepreneurs who have more knowledge than me might disagree, but I think if you...
Interesting choice, but we know the impact of that now, right?
Yeah.
We know that isn't a strategy for performance. In fact, it's the complete opposite of that. It's going to be different.
That's the plan, absolutely, to go international.
Make this the number one wellness brand in the UK. Welcome along to this episode of the Grown Up Business Podcast. I'm excited to have this conversation because I'm having a conversation with somebody I've got to work really closely with over the last 3 years, and we're going to talk about the whole of that journey, what it's like, and how our guest has gone from a shed in the back garden to a state-of-the-art wellness facility in Milton Keynes, which is an incredible journey over the last 3 years and lessons learned for that. So if you are really looking to maybe start a business, then scale it, you want to grow it, and you want to understand how to do that, but also you're interested in your own well-being, I would say, and health is a topic you want, and health is one of my passions as well as business, then this podcast is absolutely for you. So today's guest is Zed Mountford-Hill, founder of NutriZen. Welcome to the show, Zed.
Thank you very much.
Zed is a UK registered pharmacist. You've been doing that for 15 years, I think. Is that right?
Yeah. Qualified in 2006, actually.
2006. Wow.
Yeah,
congratulations. But you now really specialize in helping professionals, entrepreneurs, athletes, and celebrities sort of improve their energy, have better immunity, and sort of high performance, really use and wellness using evidence-based medicines in a state-of-the-art facility, really. So,
Correct.
That's really what you're passionate about doing, and really showing people that prevention is much better than having to deal with cure, right?
Absolutely, Paul. Yeah.
So first of all, why did you go into the profession why did you become a pharmacist, right? Where did that come from? Like why? When you had the choice to do anything in your life, why did you think, I'm going to be a pharmacist?
That's an interesting story in itself. So thank you very much for having me. It's great to be here today. I'm really looking forward to our conversation. So I'm a failed vet, I guess, is where to start this
Seriously?
conversation. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So I guess from a very early age, I've always, without knowing it, wanted to get into professions that help people,
right?
Essentially, or in that case, animals. And that was really my main driver. So if we go right back, I left school with no qualifications.
Right.
And I went straight into work. That's not true. So I left school with no qualifications and I entered a YTS scheme, for those of you old enough to remember those, in business administration. So that was my first kind of foray into work, if you like, paid work,
right?
But learned on the job as well. Then I left that and I actually went to work in a warehouse This is age 17, unloading lorries.
Wouldn't be allowed to do that now, I have a feeling.
So that taught me a lot about life. You know,
I would imagine.
had to get up, 6 a.m. to 2 p.m, hard manual labor for 8 hours a day. And it was during this journey really that I started looking at the people around me and I started thinking, I'm not sure I want to be doing this in 25 years time. All credit to people who can do that, but it just wasn't for me. And I thought, there's something else that I want to do. And ever since I was young, I'd always wanted to be a vet. So that was my main motivation. So while I was working full time,
right,
I embarked on an adult education centre program, and I did 4 GCSEs. And to this day, I still only have 4 GCSEs. And the reason I have 4 is because the adult education centre was only open on 4 nights a week. So I did 1 GCSE on Monday, 1 on Tuesday, 1 on Wednesday, and 1 on Thursday.
Okay.
So I did that at age 17. So I was a late developer, if you like, into the education system, just because for one reason or another, at the time, education wasn't for me. It's a lot of, challenges and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, so my main motivation was, what do I need to do to be a vet? So it's like, right, I'll get GCSEs, then do A-levels, and then hopefully, can go and do a degree in veterinary medicine. So during this process, I got my GCSEs and I wrote to lots of secondary schools. And I don't think this would be allowed to happen now. So I was about 18 at this point and said, hey, my name's Zed. I've just got some GCSEs. I would like to do A-levels. And one school, thankfully, accepted me. And I went on to do 4 A-levels at that particular school. Now, at the time, I didn't realise it, but considering where I started from, so I did my GCSEs in 1 year flat, just doing each subject 1 night a week. And then obviously went into secondary school. And I did very well. I got an A in 3 Cs, I think I got. And I should have been really happy with that.
Yeah,
but actually,
that's really good.
Yeah, but I wasn't.
Better than my A-level results, so yes, you should.
But unfortunately, I knew it wasn't going to quite be enough to do veterinary medicine. It's really tough. At the time, there was only 6 veterinary medicine schools in the whole country, and we're looking at 4 A's straight off the bat. So I had a really interesting and frank and brief conversation with an admissions tutor at one of the veterinary medicine schools. And he said, even if you had 4 A's, we're talking about 2-year waiting list. He's like, so it's my advice, think of something else. So I did just that. So I thought, right, I know I want to work in the medical profession. I know I want to help people. And I sidestepped into pharmacy. So it was kind of an accident, really. I hadn't planned or intended it, but that's where my path led me.
Right.
And then very quickly following that decision, I was planning on having a gap year. That didn't happen. I rang Bradford University and they said, actually, we've got a place left on this year's cohort. Do you want to come up for an interview tomorrow? So I said, okay. So I drove up to Bradford, never been there before in my life, and then accepted their invitation to enroll on the course. And then 2 weeks later, I was starting my pharmacy degree.
Wow.
So that's
insane.
Yeah, so that's how it happened. So it's kind of, wasn't how I intended it, but, just
worked out.
Yeah, just kind
of. Was it a subject that you took to really quickly, or was it something you thought, this is I really like, the more you got into that, was that something you quickly thought, this is something I'm enjoying or I feel comfortable with? Or
yeah, I think at the time in my development, I liked the certainty of it, because my natural aptitude was probably for English. I think that's what I got my A in, and the English teacher at the time, you should really go and study this further. But I was driven by the sciences. That's what really interested me. And I think because I had to work a little bit harder to understand it,
right,
I think that kind of drove my interest. And yeah, I mean, the topic of, what are the different systems in the body? How does that relate to biochemistry? How can we improve that? All of that kind of stuff really resonated with me, and I really enjoyed the course. But
how long was you studying for that then at Bradford?
So it's a master's degree. So it's a 4-year degree and a year's training.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a big commitment.
Yeah. It was quite a tough commitment, absolutely.
Yeah.
And my now wife, my girlfriend at the time, she moved up to university to Bradford with me. She studied photography. So yeah, it's quite a journey for us. We learned a lot over that period of time.
And then you went into pharmacy with the NHS, or?
So my first, so once you've got your degree, you have to do a year's pre-registration training, it's called.
Right.
So I did mine at the John Radcliffe Hospital.
Oh yeah, in Oxford, yeah.
Yeah. So that was fantastic. That was such an amazing time. We got to rotate through all the different disciplines, all the different hospitals, the Churchill, the Nuffield,
Amazing, actually.
Yeah, really, really good. Even though I was driving every day from Milton Keynes, which I'm sure you can appreciate.
Yep,
that brings its own challenges.
That's a good hour and a half commute each way.
Yeah. And at the time, you were on zero money. We already had a child by then. I missed that bit out. So our first son was born the day I handed in my dissertation at university.
That's a big day.
Yes, yeah, it was. And it was back, this was sort of early 2000s. So I drove up to Bradford to physically hand in a dissertation, and then got the phone call from my wife saying, you might want to hurry up and get back to Milton Keynes quite quickly, because I think the baby's coming today. So straight back down.
Yeah.
And then same day, our eldest son Nico was born as well. So,
wow.
Yeah, quite a day.
So a year at Oxford University then?
The John Radcliffe.
Oxford, John Radcliffe,
So year's training, and then you sit your pre-registration exam.
Right.
And then once you meet all of those requirements, you then get to qualify as a pharmacist.
Fantastic. And which did you work within a group pharmacist or somewhere in Milton Keynes, or where did you end up working?
Yes, that's really interesting as well. So all throughout my sort of fledgling career, I was adamant that hospital pharmacy was the place for me to develop, because it was more academic led. It was more about, studying, patient case studies, all of this kind of thing. So I, again, really fortunate. I started my career at Guy's and St Thomas's in London.
Wow.
Yeah, as a resident pharmacist. So that was my first post-registration job. But again, brought its own challenges. So everyone I was working with, fresh out of university, living on site, living more kind of like a university-led lifestyle. Yeah. I was a parent commuting from Milton Keynes, again, with zero money at the time. So I think I was about 12 to 18 months, and I really enjoyed it, and I learned a hell of a lot, but it was causing a lot of friction in my private life. And I got offered a job in community pharmacy just around the corner from where I live, and it was literally like doubled my salary. My wife was like, you're taking that job. It cut the commuting out, and obviously, gave us more sort of financial means at the time, which was really important, because that was our biggest challenge. So without meaning to, I ended up in community pharmacy for a long time, because, life takes over, right?
Yeah.
We started having lots of children.
Yes, you're the only person I know. I know there's one other person in my life that I know has as many children as you do, 7, and he has 7 as well. So
okay,
but he's in America, so it's a totally different world. But that's a real family commitment, that one.
Yes, yeah. So I kind of got sidetracked with family life for maybe over the last 10 to 15 years, which has been beautiful. We have an amazing family, 6 sons, 1 daughter. Age range from 20 years to 11 months.
Wow.
Absolutely love it. But the pharmacy over that period of time really just became a financial means. I kind of fell out of love with the profession during that time, if I'm being honest. Started off great intentions, felt like I was fresh into the pharmacy world, was really keen to make an impact in my patients' lives. But I think over time that started to erode. It became clear that I wasn't making the impact that I was hoping to make. And then that started to become a bit of a friction point between how I felt about what health was in my private life, and also what I was practicing every day.
Let's talk about what you're passionate about now. So you kind of the local pharmacy probably or being in that environment gave you a chance to connect with lots of people. You probably saw lots of things, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And when did that lead you to start to have this real passion for sort of, it's not really the word alternative, is it? But I suppose just kind of like it's a probably alternative kind of space, right? Or it's of things outside of the traditional, maybe. When did you start getting involved in the wellness sort of industry as a whole?
Yeah, I think that journey really began with, as I said, that kind of friction point between what inherently I was important to my wife and I in terms of health,
right,
and then how that extrapolated to what I practice every day. So just the basic stuff. So we were always into exercising, eating healthily, looking after ourselves. Proactive, simple measures which hopefully give you a better quality of life. And that was really as a pharmacist, I never took a single medication for anything if I could help it. I was really, I was kind of like the anti-pharmacist, if you like, in my private life. But then every day I was in this situation where I was responsible for handing out medications to
Did
people.
that feel at odds? Did you feel at odds with that?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, not to begin with, because I guess I was not naive, but I had a different mindset. I felt that these medications were generally doing people good. And I'm not disparaging medicine as a whole. You know, of course, I've practiced it for a long time. And there are lots of amazing drugs out there which can make a real impact on people's lives. But I think these more kind of nuanced lifestyle conditions which have exploded over the last 20 years, medication is not fixing them. You know, it's a sticking plaster.
What do you mean by that? So give us an example.
Yeah, well, I think it's a sticking plaster for, you know, the root cause of most issues. So when I talk about lifestyle conditions, so, you know, you could class things such as type 2 diabetes, inflammatory conditions, or hypertension, hypercholesterolemia. All of these kind of conditions could be down to how one's living their life. So, you know, diet, exercise, all these things we're talking about, sleep patterns. And that's really where I feel that, you know, the treatment for these conditions should start. You know, what's going on in the body, you know, how can we improve that through simple lifestyle measures. But unfortunately in the NHS, or, you know, where I was working, there wasn't kind of the room to have those conversations, I found. And I think that's kind of where a lot of, you know, my peers find themselves. You know, they'd like to have these conversations, but there isn't the space or the time.
There just isn't the time.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So you know, a stretch on resources. They don't have the time.
Yeah. So, you know, in my pharmacy, we used to refer to it as Muck Pharmacy, because it felt a little bit like that sometimes. It was, you know, breakneck speed, delivering high quantities of medication quickly to people that were waiting, you know, didn't have time to wait, very impatient, very stressful conditions. So your bandwidth to have those conversations was very minimal. So yeah, that was really frustrating for me. So I just, you know, and over the years, you know, working, as you say, you know, it was the way that I felt I made a difference was starting to get to know people over the years, you know, and that's really, and understand what was important to them. And I think, again, that's where healthcare should start, you know, from a patient-centered approach. You know, what's important to this person? What are their values? How can we then extrapolate that out? Yeah. Whereas I feel we try to crowbar everyone into the one, you know, one size fits all approach.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think that's historical too.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, so over the years, you know, you see lots and lots of these people that are just not getting better, and it's just, you know, medication upon medication. And that, you know, I mean, these terms have been, you know, adopted lately. Polypharmacy, you know, people are on, you know, I think 5 or 10 more medications, and now there's another one, hyperpolypharmacy. And this is what you see. You know, I used to deal with lots of you know, patients that were on 15 or 20 different medications, and, you know, when you're looking through the list, you're thinking, are these all necessary? Is this person getting better? And I didn't think that was the case. So yeah, it was a lot of, I guess, dissatisfaction at the end of it. You know, like I say, it wasn't all like that, you know, but towards the end of it.
You were there for a long time, right?
Exactly.
It would have built up over time.
Yeah. And I think it's really at odds of what was important to me. And I think that's the key thing, Paul, is that, you know, it didn't feel authentic anymore. It wasn't how I wanted to help these people. Yeah. I was helping them by a way which I was, you know, in a sort of strict
out of alignment
way.
with. You were out of alignment with it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So when did you first get exposed to things like you know, IV drips and stuff like that? How did you get into that world? How did you start learning about that? What was the, you know, was it an event you went to? Was it a book you read? What started to open you up to some of those treatments?
Yes, it's really interesting. It was actually my wife. Most of my best ideas are mainly come from my wife. Don't tell her that. We'll edit that part out.
We'll try, yeah.
But no, so
I've always thought she was great.
But no, I mean, my wife has had some vitamin deficiency issues over the years.
Okay.
She's been a strict vegetarian and vegan, and she knows that comes with its own pitfalls. But, you know, for ethical reasons, that's what she chose to do for a large number of years. And she's had to supplement with B12 and iron and things of that nature. And we really started having this conversation about, you know, how good they made her feel after she had, you know, these treatments, and she had some iron infusions and B12 injections. And we just started exploring, you know, what would that be like if we spent our time, and in it, you know, we have a massive, you know, health optimization clinic, which has a whole suite of different. It didn't start like that.
No. We'll talk about the journey and where it started for sure. Yeah.
So this was just kind of like an idea of like, oh, what if we gave people B12 injections? That might be pretty cool, you know. help them feel more energized, correct their levels, because they do make a really big impact. They're offered in the NHS, of course, for people that are deficient, but you can also choose to supplement that way to optimize your levels as well. So really, that was the genesis for it, really. Simple as that. So then I just embarked on then finding out more about, I didn't know it was an industry at that time. It's just like, okay, what else is there out there? And it's like, okay, vitamin infusions. And so very quickly I enrolled on some training courses, made some connections with some good high quality UK manufacturers, enrolled on their training courses and just immersed myself in that world at this stage. So I guess it's important to note that wasn't my first step out of pharmacy. I just kind of got the entrepreneurial bug, if you see what I mean. So I was just like, and I guess that's a really important point to make as well, Paul, is that, at one point I felt in my own personal development, I was just kind of stuck in this pharmacy world. I didn't particularly see a way out. I had at the time I had 5 dependents, this, was supposed to be a well-paid, professional job. But I'd hit my ceiling very early, dissatisfaction with how I was helping people. So I kind of started exploring how, what else could I do? And I think I've mentioned it before in our chats that I'd become a victim of my environment. I just kind of was stuck in this sort of small way of thinking couldn't think outside the 4 walls in which I operated in. So I really started, for my own personal journey, sort of thinking, what else could I do? And so I got into mindfulness meditation. Just for my own personal development. Absolutely fantastic. It's helped me no end, and it's something that I still practice today privately. But I enrolled on a mindfulness meditation practitioner course.
Oh, really?
Yeah, an intensive one. Yeah.
Right.
So I went and did that with Oxfordshire with a fantastic guy called Aston Colley. What he did really, really resonated with me. And that, formed a big part of my thinking. And I started, again, a side hustle, away from pharmacy at the weekend, seeing clients privately, one-to-one, helping them through their particular journeys in their life, and that was great. And then you start thinking, is there a way to,
Is that when you were in the shed? Is that the shed?
Yeah.
Was that where it started? Shed. Did you literally go, I can't do this in the kitchen because I've got 5 kids, I need to do it in the shed?
Exactly.
Is that how it started?
Yeah. So the shed has had many guises. So the shed, my wife's used it for shiatsu.
Right.
She's a trained shiatsu practitioner. Reiki, yoga, all these kind of things. So it was kind of, built for that kind of space. So I started practicing mindfulness meditation in there with clients. And then for one reason or another, it was a great part of my journey and I really enjoyed it. But for one reason or another, it didn't quite work out. It became apparent, at this time I was looking at, could this be some longevity in this?
Well, we met, I think when we met, because I came to you, from memory, I think it was around September or late September, early October. I remember it was a night when it was dark. Whatever time I got to you, it was dark and it was raining. I remember that. I remember trying to find your house, and I remember driving down. It was in a cul-de-sac at the time, and I remember driving down and main beam headlights were sort of like trying to scan. If I was looking for the numbers on the where you were, and universe has a way of having a sense of humor, and your front door was colored purple. And I saw the color purple on the front door and I went, I bet that's the house. I bet that's where it is. And I sort of and I turned up, knocked on the door, and yes, it was. And so, yeah, I think I had one of my first treatments with you was before our grown up business retreat.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, I remember.
Because I was particularly concerned at doing that event, which is 4 days, is pretty draining on the body, which it is. And I was trying to find a way to increase my level of energy and resilience and recovery during that 4-day event. It's a pretty full on, obviously, 4 days, and that was why I kind of came with that specific goal. And I remember turning at the first day of the retreat, which was I think I came to you probably 3 or 4 days before the event. Literally before I got on a plane and flew to Spain. And I remember by the end of day 1, people saying to people on my team, like, what the heck is Paul on? Because he's like bouncing off the ceilings more than usual, and he's got more energy, and he seems like just really, really up, and like what's he been on? And I think at that time people were like, what have you been doing? And I think there was a level of like sort of curiosity, but also skepticism about it. Yeah. Have you faced much skepticism when people find out? Or did you in the early days back then? Or
absolutely, yeah. I mean, I would say the answer is yes, and I've always been mindful of that because of my background. And I think that's been one of my main focus, is to kind of establish the middle ground between what's considered the kind of, trendy, faddy IV and the medical world, and really position ourselves and kind of broach in two worlds, because there was a lot of skepticism that, why are you just putting vitamins in the body and this kind of thing. And it's like, well, actually doing it intravenously is a very effective method of getting things into the body very quickly and feeling the benefits of that as well.
I think there is skepticism around that because there's certain companies that have been out there selling it as hangover cures.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Which is not, I'm sure it does do some of that, but that's not the way you should use it.
No.
And I think for me, the difference is always like, I think you have to have some level of data to support it, right? Yeah. But when you started out at that point, so when you were in the shed, did you have a vision for what you were trying to build, or was it just to see if you could transition out of the job and make this side hustle a full-time gig?
Yeah, so I think there was probably a precursor before the shed as well. Okay. So before the shed became the place to come, I love it's called the shed.
well, I'm not sure what else we can call it. We can call it the clinic.
I think I used to call it the cabin to try and give it some kind of gravitas.
Cabin sounds much better than shed. Fair play. The cabin.
Yeah. But, so, yeah, I mean, I guess the answer is I was just kind of exploring what was the possibility with all of these different treatments that we were discovering. So as I mentioned, so NutriZen was really born through, I have a really good friend who runs an amazing colonic hydrotherapy clinic called the Herring Clinic. If anyone's interested in that, amazing. She's been doing it about 20 years. And when Charlie and I, my wife, had the idea for offering vitamin injections, we used her clinic space on a Friday, which was the day she didn't work on a Friday morning, and the day I didn't happen to work as a pharmacist, just to explore this idea. So one Friday of every month at Nikki's clinic, we offered a vitamin injections morning, just to see if there's any interest. And that's really where the genesis of the idea came from. And we just used that as the kind of, the testing ground to how are people responding to these things.
Yep.
What was the feedback? And very, very quickly, this absolutely snowballed. I mean, it became every fortnight, then every week. And then people were like, okay, I don't want to see you on a Friday. I want to see you on another day. Where do I go? And that's where the shed was born.
Where the cabin was thought of. But I think it's a really important lesson there for entrepreneurs who are maybe early stages and they're thinking, do I need to quit my job to start my side hustle? Or do I need to quit my job to start this? And I would say, listen, I think the key thing here is that you have to figure out how you can test the market and test demand, right? Which is really what you were doing. You were just you were testing demand.
Yeah.
And if you can test demand and go from once a month to once a week, you're going, there's definitely demand here. Plus, you're giving your chance the opportunity to create product market fit, right? Which is the goal, is to make sure that the product that you're offering is a fit for what the market wants.
Yes.
And is there enough demand to go, this could be something, this is a business here. And I think, what's smart about the way that you did that is that you didn't put a lot on the line to risk it. There will have been some relatively small overhead for stock and cost of possibly renting the building at the time on a Friday or whatever.
Yeah.
But relative low risk, high feedback environments. You get lots of feedback from customers, what they like, but actually without having to risk a huge amount of capital.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's a really poignant lesson for a lot of people who are starting businesses, to go, like, how can you do it in a way that doesn't put your family and everything at risk while you test the offer, test the market, and test that there's a product market fit here.
Yeah. And it was a really exciting time. I guess another important kind of point to make was so when we had the idea for NutriZen, I'm not even sure it was called that then. This was maybe the end of 2019,
right,
where we were going to launch. And then, of course, what happened? Had this amazing idea, and then bang, COVID lockdown. And so it literally just got our first batch of injections. I think at the time we had B12, biotin, glutathione, which we'll probably get onto later. It's an amazing molecule. So we had a few injections, and then all of a sudden everything got restricted. Everyone got locked down. So I had to go back to being a pharmacist during that time. So the idea for NutriZen was kind of put on the back burner. And it was really that time period, though, like for a lot of people, I think during, that intense COVID, that I really came to the conclusion that what was I afraid of, going back to my sort of entrepreneurial journey, if you like, why wasn't I going after something that I really felt passionate about?
Yeah.
And I think COVID was probably the best thing that ever happened to NutriZen. When we came out of COVID, all of a sudden, the idea that we had was super relevant.
Yeah.
You know, all of a sudden, everyone wanted to understand what was going on in their bodies. How could they improve their health? There was more maybe skepticism of mainstream medicine's practices. People couldn't access mainstream medicine, so people were looking for their own answers and really going on this journey. And I think that's what really captured everyone's interest. The timing, which was, you know, accidental, if you like. I hadn't planned it, but it just all of a sudden NutriZen got.
I think health became the top of everyone's agenda, right?
Exactly,
I mean,
exactly.
It became the number one thing on everyone's agenda. Everyone's mind was like, okay, right, if this happens again, I think there's a shift to people taking personal responsibility for their health now.
Exactly.
In a way that I think before we'd sort of outsourced it to the state.
Yes.
And I think people are going, hang on a second, I need to take back control.
Yeah.
For me, I think. Or at least that's certainly how I feel.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And I think just an understanding and awareness, you know, obviously now we have so much information at our disposal about how important all of these things are actually. And again, another point that I think is really interesting is during that that period of time from early 2020 to late 2020, when we first launched NutriZen at the Herring Clinic, as I mentioned, was my own personal health journey as well. So we contracted COVID, you know, maybe March 2020, I think it was. And then my wife and I and our children all suffered from long COVID for the majority of 2020. And that was a really crazy and scary time because we didn't know it's called long COVID. Then no one did. There wasn't a name for it. And we were kind of like the first wave, if you like, of long COVID sufferers.
Right.
And we didn't know if there was an end in sight of this. You know, I'm talking about, you know, like crippling fatigue, like, you know, brain fog, dizziness. These are a reminder of, I didn't need glasses until I had long COVID.
Really?
Yeah. So all of these things were happening to us and our children, and we were all presenting in lots of different ways. And again, my wife, she did a lot of research at this time, and she actually found out there was a lot of emerging studies to find out that glutathione was a key antioxidant that was often massively depleted in long COVID sufferers. So she was like, what have you got upstairs? And I was like, I've got B12, glutathione. She's like, right, let's start with that.
Right.
So we literally just started self-injecting with glutathione weekly, I think it was. And that was a massive catalyst for our improvement. I wouldn't say it was all down to that, but it gave us the platform. It was the first time both of us looked at each other and went, I feel like myself again, even if it was just for a few days. Because, you know, I'd probably gloss over it a little bit, but at the time it was horrific. Like my wife was bedridden. Like,
really?
Yeah, like I was rushing her to A&E. We were taking our children to A&E with like nosebleeds and rashes and bruises. This was a, you know, real difficult time for us. I was still working as a pharmacist, but literally, I don't know how I was getting through those days coming home and just being wiped out for like, you know, 3 or 4 days and then having to go again because obviously healthcare didn't stop during that time.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the glutathione, it was so interesting. Once we started getting that in the body and you could start to feel the shift. So, I can think a bit clearer now. You know, I've got a bit more energy, you know. And that really gave us then the impetus to go, right, how are we going to fix this problem? So before that, we was just kind of like lost in it, if you like. But then once we got that clarity, we're like, right, there is a way out of this. And once we knew that, then we started building on that. So we realized that, and I think this is well publicized now, that there's a lot of issues with histamine in long COVID sufferers, cause a lot of inflammation, all this kind of stuff. So we really eradicated histamine from our diet, you know, gentle exercise, electrolytes, all of this kind of stuff. And gradually over several months with the supplementation as well, we got better. And that was a really interesting moment for NutriZen's development, because I then realized it wasn't just about, you know, have this vitamin and you feel a bit better. It's actually, there's a lot of therapeutic benefit, which I'd probably overlooked at that time,
right?
But, you know, to all of these different nutrients. And I was just like, this is amazing. So we started testing this out, you know, obviously when we launched, we started getting long COVID sufferers contacting us. Okay, how can you help? We've got this problem. Okay, this is what worked for us. And we kind of slowly built up.
Was that because you just been sharing your story on social, or just?
Yeah, exactly that. So yeah, we just exactly that. So just sharing our journey, not for any other reason at the time, and then people reaching out to us going, okay, well, what helped for you? What did you do? So we began exploring that journey. And even now, we still have long COVID sufferers in the clinic, and glutathione is one of the key molecules that we use to
Really?
improve outcomes for those patients, for sure.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So in the cabin, then you started to build this up. At what point did you realize you needed to go full time on it?
Yeah. So I was I forget the timeline, but I think so. October 2020, we launched at the Herring Clinic. I think early 21, we moved into the cabin, perhaps. And I think we was there for about a year.
Right.
And it just was, just a crazy whirlwind. It's like all of a sudden, I was seeing, a couple of clients a week on a Saturday or a Sunday, this kind of thing. And then it was just like, slowly, it was like every night after work, I was just like finishing in the pharmacy at 7 and then seeing clients till 9, probably on the day that I saw you as well.
That's probably one of those days. Yeah.
Actually, I remember the first phone conversation we had.
Do you?
Yeah. You rang up to inquire about our services, and I was working as a pharmacist at the time, and I had to walk out of the dispensary to take the call to go, "Oh, NutriZen."
Love it.
Yeah, and then go back in and booked you in probably for one evening. But yeah, and then all of a sudden, we started treating some high-profile clients that are on our socials because they were having issues, and long COVID was a big topic there. Yeah. And thankfully, like I say, we'd found a way to be able to, give people a platform to start to improve. So during that time, I think it was Feb 2022 was the last time I stepped foot in the pharmacy.
Right.
Yeah. So I just got to a point where, I've missed a bit out, Paul. So I left my job as a pharmacy manager in September 21.
Right. Would you do freelance it then? Sort of like locum type
exactly.
stuff? Right.
Yeah,
okay.
exactly. Yeah. So I was just like, I'm out of this now. I'm done. My wife was pregnant at the time, and she really thanked me when I came home and said, "I've just quit my job today." She's like, "Oh, great." But thankfully she supported me. And so I was, slowly building up the client base, working as a locum pharmacist 2-3 days a week. And then very soon it became clear that actually I needed to focus all my attention on NutriZen because there was something really big happening.
Yeah.
Once I made that transition, then we moved into our first clinic, if you like.
Your first proper sort of commercial building.
Clinic,
grown up building, really, I suppose you could probably call it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you find that scary, or did you just think, this is just the next logical step, or was it mentally a big move for you to get to that stage?
Yeah, really good question. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing that I've discovered on the entrepreneurial journey or the founder journey, is that every step feels like the most biggest step ever. So that's
so true.
Yeah,
that's so true.
That was massive. It was like, oh my God, I'm going to be responsible for finding this money now every month.
Yeah.
When I was in the shed, we'd paid for the shed. There was no overheads apart from the electric.
This is true.
So it was fantastic. Just felt like I had this really cool interest that people were excited about. And then that made it feel very grown up once we had made that decision. But again, it became very clear very quickly that was a great idea. It legitimized what we was doing, gave us a much better environment to welcome people into, separated it from our home life, because it got to a point where we just had like cars outside the house all day, and like the neighbors are just like, looking out the window,
good,
what's going on? Celebrities turning up in my garden, making sure the washing's off the line, these kind of things. As I say, and when we moved into our first, working clinic, that was a fantastic step, and never. Was it
still just you at that point, or when did you start to take on when did you bring your first person into it?
So we've got one full-time nurse at the minute, and I think it was probably about a year and a half, 2 years into being in that clinic. So I ran that clinic single-handedly for 2 years.
So I think that's an important point, because I think sometimes founders don't do the hustle phase. Sometimes you have to do the hustle phase, don't you? Just to generate the cash, because you've done it all from working capital. You've not taken on debt, you've not taken on investment, you've not done any of that. You've all just done it from profitability and working capital.
Absolutely, yeah.
Which should inspire anyone listening to prove you can do that. You don't have to go raise money. Not that you might want to, but you don't have to. But you can do it from just putting in the hard yards, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think that's what's great about, if you do have that entrepreneurial spirit, is I feel like I've always had a fantastic work ethic, through the stories. If I want to achieve something, I can really set my mind to it and commit to it. And all of a sudden I had this idea that and I was just running with it, and I was working. And the harder I worked, the better it got. And I was just like, this is brilliant.
Yeah.
I can see the tangible results of the effort that I'm putting in here. And that just gave me, you know, even more impetus just to keep going and just see what. And I think that's what I've always loved, is that, you know, the creative side of it, you know, what's next? Where are we going with this? You know, what ideas are working? What do we need to focus on? And it wasn't until maybe 6 months in the new clinic that I was like, I think I've got a business. It genuinely hadn't occurred to me before then that I might have a business. And then I was like, okay, I think I'm going to have to start making decisions around what's going to happen next, or where are we going? These are all, I didn't have the answer to any of these questions. I didn't have a clue. It wasn't really until, like I say, I met you.
Yeah. Well, I remember us having a couple of conversations where we sat down and went, okay, I said to you, like, where are you going with this?
Yeah.
Because I think it was a point, actually, from memory, where somebody was talking to you about investment, wasn't there, early on?
Yeah, this is,
Yeah, and I think sometimes I've seen this before, where a founder's got a great idea, but they don't really know what it is, but somebody else does, and then sort of offers them, you know, what seems like a lot of money at the time to become an investor or a partner. And I remember you telling me about you'd been made that offer, and me saying, I think I said to you, it's way too early for you to even know what this is yet, let alone taking somebody else with money.
Yeah.
I think sometimes you've got to give yourself a couple of years to just figure out what it is.
100%.
Like, what have you got here? What works? Which bits do clients really like? What products are the best sellers? Which ones do people come back for? That can take you a couple of years to work out.
Yeah.
And at that point, you don't really know what you've got.
No, I totally agree. And genuinely, that was probably one of the most important conversations I had at that time. And that's something that really resonated with me and made me think, okay, I'm gonna stick around with this guy. Because no, genuinely, because as you say, you know, because of the kind of services that we have, we attracted, you know, high performers, you know, entrepreneurs. And literally in the first maybe 18 months of us operating, I've got about 2 or 3 offers of investment.
Yeah.
And I'm very much people first. I need to build that relationship first, understand 100%. People, how it's all going to work before I can just, you know, go, oh yeah, that sounds great. So I was always very skeptical, and I was very like, you know, sort of no. And then as you say, when we met, I remember you saying, you don't need investment, you need to work out what it is you've got first.
Yeah.
It's like, and then once you've achieved that, then maybe we can have a conversation.
Yeah. Well, then you figure it makes a logical step, right? Like, if you take money off people at that point, it'll be their vision, not your vision as well.
Yeah.
Which I think is always dangerous. You suddenly take early money, you know, unless you're really super clear on the model and what it is, but you weren't. You were still figuring it out.
Yes.
If you're super clear on the model and you've got it locked, and great, yeah, then maybe investment makes sense, because but you weren't. You were still in I'm trying to figure out what I've got here, and
absolutely,
you know, what is the secret sauce even at that point to the whole thing? Is it you? Is it the products? What is it?
Yeah.
You know, or is this just a really great lifestyle thing, or what is it? And I think if you're in that space, bringing investors on can cause a massive amount of pain, in my experience.
Yeah. And that's the thing, I genuinely didn't know at that time, but just that conversation gave me the freedom to go, okay, it's okay to spend the next couple of years exploring that.
Figuring it out.
Yeah, it's no pressure, just work it out.
Yeah, I think sometimes we're always in such a rush to get to the next place, and I'm always a great believer, like, so you got time.
Yeah.
You got time. Like, okay, great. So take 2 years, figure it out, and then scale from there. But it's all good, right? Like, if you're playing a 5, 10, 15, 20 year game, 2 years is nothing.
Yeah.
2 years is nothing, right? Yeah. And I think sometimes you have to just have that longer term perspective and then take the pressure off, right?
Absolutely. And that's the thing.
What were some of the biggest learnings you had during that point, or things you look back on and go, yeah, got misjudged that one, or didn't factor in this, or something, you know, what kind of things at that point for you do you look back and go, yeah, I'd have probably done that sooner if I'd have realized the benefit of it?
It's a really good question. I don't know if there's kind of like one specific thing, but it was just, you know, going through that journey, like I say, every decision felt like a massive one at the time, because we were just, you know, my livelihood depended on it, on finding that money. So every investment, in whether it was in people or systems or processes, felt like a really, really big decision. And you don't know if it's going to be the right one, I guess, is the most challenging thing. And it's kind of learning to live with that uncertainty, but backing yourself at the same time, to see that conviction through, I guess, is kind of what I've learned along the way. And you get more comfortable with that as you go through, and you realize that, you know, actually, like you say, I've made some mistakes. I've invested money in the wrong places, but That's part of the
Still here,
journey.
still here.
Exactly.
It's part of the journey. It's yep, and you'll probably continue to do that, right? It's like we're not going to get them all right.
No,
that's just accept if you're going to play this game, you're not going to get them all right. So be okay with that, but just fix it.
Yeah, I remember, going back to the cabin. I spent my last, at the time, I had £700 in the NutriZen account, and I spent my last £700 because I'm quite particular, as you know, about how I like things to be presented. If you ever come to my clinic, you'll see that. And I was like, right, if we're going to do this, it's going to be like the nicest cabin or shed ever. So I spent my last £700 kitting this place out. So I had zero money in the account. And my wife was like, you are absolutely mad. You just killed this. But thankfully it worked out.
Thankfully it worked out.
Yeah.
The next person in went, wow, this is the best cabin I've ever been in. What a shed.
Yeah.
But it was a client retention strategy. That's how I think you probably meant it, right?
Exactly.
Create an amazing experience, people come back. That was what you were going for, right?
100%.
I'm not sure to cleaned out the whole bank account with it. Probably left some working capital in there somewhere, right?
Yeah, don't do that at home yet.
So was it 2 years in the first clinic then? Have you been, because I was trying to work this out the other day, 2.5 years.
Yeah, it went quick.
It really
quick.
did, didn't it?
Yeah.
And I mean, that again proved that level of demand, didn't it? I think is amazing with that one.
Yeah, that's when things really started ramping up.
Yeah.
And again, very quickly we started dealing with again, interesting conversation we had when I first moved into this large, I think it's about 400 square foot, but compared to the shed, it was huge, right?
So, compared to where you come from, it was a big room.
Yeah, and I spent the first 6 months working in the same operating model as I did, and you were like, what are you doing? You're like, why have you bothered getting this place? We need to get some more people in here. And I was like, okay, that's a good point. So once we establish, a workflow.
I think you were seeing people one at a time still. And I was like, there's 3 sofas in here. You could see people 3 at a time, and you triple the business overnight.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea.
Like I say, I'm a clinician, I've had to learn the business side of things very quickly. It was, that was a real sort of period of intense growth for us, that 2.5 years. And that was brilliant. And that's really where kind of I got the genesis of the idea of what I wanted NutriZen to become and what it is today. And that was a really, really cool period of time. And we learned a lot in that space. And then I remember one morning, as you often do, woke up around 5 a.m. and was like, I've got it. And just wrote down the name of the wellness centre, what treatments we were going to have, what it looks like. Really? And then just kind of, without knowing it, put it out in the universe. And then 12 months later, we moved into the NutriZen Wellness Centre.
Do you think that was just an organic process that happened because you've been doing it for so long? Or do you think it was some kind of creative download for you?
I think it's a little bit of both, kind of like learning where we were going. And then, I think it was a period of just like, say, having that moment I think it was over a Christmas period or a New Year period. I just had that ability to let it all sink in and go, right, where is this going? Where am I trying to steer it? And that's when I just had that vision.
Was that sort of when you started to think about, when did you come around to the whole conversation of health optimization? When did that start to be a topic or a phrase that you used?
Yeah, I guess that was during the first clinic we had.
Right.
When we started attracting more clients that were thinking along these lines. And I guess that's where we started formulating what's now at the core of our service offering, which is, data and testing bloods. And again, going back to my kind of background. And that's something that really, really appeals to me because it's great. We can test people's blood, we can optimize nutrients and then track that and see what improvements we make in terms of health outcomes and the numbers. I guess, health optimization started becoming more of a topic as we move through our journey. It was kind of just to start with, just testing these things out, how people responded in terms of symptom management to injections and IVs. And then very soon it was like, okay, let's start tracking this data now. Where are we shifting the dial? How are we improving things? What do people need to focus on? And I think that's the key thing. And that's what we're really trying to encourage now is, health optimization is about, not just seeing health as the absence of disease, which I think we've fallen into the trap in this country.
Yeah, I agree.
If we're not ill, must mean we're well. Well, now we have super in-depth blood tests, which we can test every single system in the body, all key nutrient as well that are integral to optimal cell function, and work out, okay, are these the things that are affecting how you're living your life day to day? Because that's the thing now, what affects most people is not always, disease and things like that. It's lifestyle issues, right? It's, as you say, poor energy, low immunity, brain fog, cognitive function, not being able to perform best, not understanding what all these things are. And then we fall into the trap of, maybe supplementing randomly and going, oh, maybe this will help. And I'm sure we've all got lots of...
Yeah, I think if you've ever walked into a high street shop that sells vitamins and stuff, and then you bought some, then on some level you're trying to optimize your health, aren't you?
Exactly.
You that's just the only tools you think you have in the kit box.
Yeah.
And I think, let's just speak to the blood test, because I think it's an important part of the business proposition that you've developed is you really like to start with that data first, so that you're acting on fact with people. It isn't just come in and we hope this works. You're very much data driven in the approach.
Absolutely.
Is that one of your unique selling points, do you think?
I believe so, yeah. So we the three core pillars of what we offer is we base it around three key words, which are reset, rebuild, and thrive. So a lot of people that we attract are people that are perhaps not ill enough to get attention from mainstream medical care, but their quality of life is being impacted on a daily basis.
Right.
And they're looking for a way to find out what might be the problem. So often I get on a lot of discovery calls with people, find out what's been going on. And yeah, absolutely, that's the place to start for me. Let's look at the numbers. What's your body telling us? And then once we have that data, then we can formulate a plan moving forward. Then we can focus our attention on the right areas, not just through guesswork, but through actual data.
Yep.
And then that makes recommending treatments much easier, because we know which ones people are most likely to respond to based on their blood work.
Yeah.
And then we try to encourage people to, how we generally tend to work is if we identify problems, we might work in, a little bit more intensively with people to begin with. And then, but our aim is essentially to help rebuild your body.
Yeah.
So you can take over that process in the long term, but we're just going to give you that support in the initial period, guide you as to where you need to focus your attention. And yes, through treatments in the clinic if it's needed, but also through oral supplementation, which we offer as well, and also lifestyle change as well, which I'm really, really passionate about. All of those things brought together, what we see makes the biggest health improvement outcomes for clients that we work with. Yeah. So we try and bring that all together. So if you have one of our blood tests, you'll receive a super detailed report, but in a clear, easy to understand fashion. We'll guide you through that as well. Yeah. Break it down for you. Tell you, again, what you need to focus on, what treatments you should have, and what you can do in your own lifestyle as well to help, supplement all that.
Do you think most people, full disclosure, I've had the blood test, so I've been through the process. I found it, there were a couple of bits I found quite shocking because it surprised me about stuff I didn't know, that I was like, wow, I didn't even think that was an issue or a potential risk of an issue. But do you think, I certainly feel like if you're in business and we look at so many metrics in our business, don't we? Sales, average order value, customer lifestyle, lifetime value, acquisition cost, all of those kind of things. I just feel like this is applying the same rigor around data, to a different area of our life. If we want to be a high performing entrepreneur, then actually understanding what you've got to work with, frankly, from a data perspective, in the same way that you track sleep and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. No, I totally agree.
Feels like a logical place to start.
Yeah, absolutely. And I find it absolutely fascinating that so many of us walk around and we don't have a clue about what any of those numbers are. I went to your dinner the other night and I walked in, there was so many beautiful cars out the front, and it just got me thinking. I was like, I bet the owners of those cars get them serviced every single year.
Yep.
They won't drive them for 20 years and then go, oh God, something's gone wrong with it. Can't believe that. or guess what fuel it might need, or you know what, without testing, right?
Yeah.
So why don't we apply the same logic to ourselves? Why is that? I mean, it's such a fundamental thing when you think about it.
But I think it's shifting. I think the next generation, certainly my son, I don't know about yours, but you've got more data on that than I probably have, given how many children you have. But my son is very much into watching videos and things on YouTube about what he should be eating, what, you know, the next generation have absolutely got the memo about alcohol's not good for you.
Absolutely.
And that is having a big impact on lots of areas of life and society.
Yeah.
And I think you look quite dated now if you go out and start drinking at a business event. I actually, you know, like heavy drinking. I'm talking about going out.
Yeah.
Going, oh, I'm going to stay in the bar till 1 or 2 in the morning and get absolutely, you know, trolleyed. I think I've been at events where people do that and everyone else just sort of looks and goes, interesting choice, but you know, it's just because we know the impact of that now, right?
Yeah.
We know that isn't a strategy for performance. In fact, it's the complete opposite of that. But I think the next generation coming through is way more educated than our generation ever was.
I agree.
And I think they're making smarter choices earlier, which I think is going to be interesting to see how that plays out over the next 20 years.
Yeah.
Because I think it's going to be different. I think it's definitely going to be different.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And I think that's interesting as well, because I've kind of used my business to help improve myself as a business owner as well.
Right.
Which I love. So I've got everything at my fingertips, which I need to help improve my health.
Yeah.
And to optimize and to be at the sharp end of what I need to do. But also, as you say, making those changes in my own lifestyle has been a big part of my journey as well. And I totally agree. And making sure, you know, probably before I started NutriZen, I was like everyone else, you know, maybe got a few bits and things tested from the doctor now and again.
We don't know what we don't know, do we?
No, exactly. Yeah.
So, like, from a marketing standpoint, what have you done marketing wise to grow? Because you've grown. I mean, you're on track for around about 500,000 this year, something like that,
Correct.
right? So,
yeah.
Like, what works for you as a early stage founder? What were your marketing go-tos at that point?
Probably not the best person to ask, but genuinely, just delivering an amazing service. That's all I've ever been focused on. It's what I'm so passionate about. You know, I want everyone who I treat, who steps foot in my clinic, just to have the best experience first and foremost, and for us to connect with them and to be able to help them in the best way we can.
Yeah,
that's number one, and that was always the way through my career as well. And again, that probably wasn't rewarded in the pharmacy industry. It was like, okay, what's the bottom line here?
Yeah,
but I've always believed it the other way around. I know, you know, business people who entrepreneurs who have more knowledge than me might disagree, but I think if you look after people and you're authentic about that, then
the best source of future customers is a happy customer going out telling 5 people, right?
Exactly. And that,
you know, that's always been the case.
So that's exactly the point I was going on to make. That's all my marketing was really, is like making sure that every person who entered NutriZen was looked after in the best way I possibly could. And that just snowballed. Just simply doing that. You know, we did some bits and pieces on social media, but it's always been kind of sporadic. So we've attracted a lot of people that are solution aware, and we've, you know, seemed the most kind of attractive option, I guess, for people.
Yeah.
We've got over 150 5-star Google reviews.
Yeah, which is amazing.
Yeah, the fresher booking system that we use, we've got over 900 5-star reviews on there, which is people who have appointments with us.
Wow.
So the feedback's been incredible. But now, obviously, I want to now reach even more people. So I want to start now connecting with the people that have a problem but don't know that we can help them yet.
Yeah.
So now that's forming part of my marketing strategy going forward.
Is that changing where you're investing your money in from a marketing perspective then? Are you putting money into different things as a result?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So media team, marketing team, all of these things. How can we educate people that have a problem that we could be a great way for them to be able to help themselves? Yeah. So that's where the money's going now.
I think that's an important thing, isn't it, for them to be able to help themselves, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
And when you had the download at sort of 5 a.m. that you were talking about, and was the bit, because obviously then about a year later you moved again, right? You're in the current facility,
correct,
which is state of the art. I mean, I don't know how many square feet it is, but it's
1,200.
It's big.
Yeah,
it's big, and it's really built to be able to help a lot of people. You know, you can have a lot of people in there at one time, right? Plus, you've now got obviously other things that you couldn't have in the smaller unit, which you've now got, like the red light therapy and the hyperbaric oxygen as well, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So, was that a vision to bring those kind of things into? Had you wanted to do that, but just not had the right space? Did you always think, right? I have the, because I think. Or did the vision grow as you grew?
I think probably the latter. Because again, you know, when we first started out, I didn't really envisage even blood tests being our core service, you know, right at the start. Like I say, it was more just about how can we improve symptomatically how people are feeling with these different nutrients. So then the blood test was the first thing that come and go, okay, let's be really specific about this. And then that's the best way to help people.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, what are other ways we can help people to help, augment what we're already doing? So I think, that those ideas grew as the business grew. And then that's what led me to kind of think, okay, I really would like to have multiple modalities that we could tap into under one roof.
Yeah.
So if I don't feel that nutrient therapy is the right way to help this person, it might be oxygen therapy, or it might be red light, or it might be a combination of several of those. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's how NutriZen is going to continue to expand, but I'm very passionate about making sure that everything we offer is, the most sort of like clinically validated.
Yes. And tested, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And there's a lot of data now around red light therapy and the value of it. And there's been a lot of research done to that as well, and the hyperbaric too, correct?
Correct. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's why, we've got a Novo Thor red light bed, which there isn't too many of those in the UK. And we chose that particular one because of the robust sort of clinical studies that there are in terms of its effectiveness. And the same with hyperbaric oxygen. We've got ones after Credit Oxygens UK, who are an amazing company, hand built in the UK, hard shell hyperbaric chambers, operate at 1.8, excellent machines, and again, lots of evidence for the effectiveness in hyperbaric oxygen and how it can help people.
Yeah. So talk to me about what's NAD and why should people care?
Wow, NAD is so popular at the moment.
So why should people care about it?
Because it's an absolutely integral molecule to your existence.
Okay. Well, that sounds like a good reason then, right?
So that's the point number one. But no, it's a really interesting molecule. So NAD plus, or nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide, it's a coenzyme, bear with me here, that resides in your mitochondria.
Right.
So your mitochondria is like the powerhouse of your cell. So you have trillions of these things in your body.
Okay.
It's really hard to get your head around. Every single cell in your body has a mitochondria, and within that mitochondria is NAD+.
Right.
And it's absolutely crucial for producing ATP, which is the currency of energy in the body.
Yeah.
So now there's been a lot of research around how actually as we age through different factors in our lifestyle, be it diet, poor lifestyle choices or disease or whatever it might be, NAD levels can fluctuate quite significantly.
Right.
And it's a key driver of aging. So as we age, our NAD levels drop off as well.
Okay.
So it's a really interesting thing to choose a supplement with. There's lots of ways to do it. You can naturally boost your NAD levels. You can take precursors, and obviously you can also have targeted intravenous infusions as well.
Okay.
Which is what we offer. And it improves cognitive function, because you think about it, it affects every single cell in your body.
Yeah.
So in terms of how it can improve your wellness and well-being, improve cognitive function, energy, used often enough, immune system function, all of these kind of things. So I think that's why it's important.
Yeah, very, very.
Yeah.
And what are symptoms that you don't have enough of it then?
So cognitive decline would definitely be one. So
what brain function? What do you mean by that? Sort of like inability to focus, or recall memory, or
it might be a little bit of one of those things, or more commonly brain fog, or just not feeling quite sharp in yourself, struggling to do tasks that you otherwise would do very well.
Right.
Of course, there's lots of different reasons why these things can be impacted, but NAD levels declining can certainly be one of them.
Yeah.
Energy obviously is the obvious one as well. Picking up infections, all of this kind of stuff. So it's a really useful tool in the clinic for people that have, mitochondrial dysfunction has been found to be at the root cause of a lot of conditions that we come across in the clinic. So, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome, or a lot of autoimmune conditions as well.
Right.
Potentially people can benefit from supplementing with NAD+.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, where you're at the moment, you're in the new clinic, obviously, which is phenomenal. What's the vision? How has the vision for NutriZen leveled up recently? How have you? Because moving in there definitely changed your perspective, right?
Massively, yeah.
In what? Did it give you more belief? Did it give you more confidence? What did it give you?
Yeah, I guess more confidence, or understanding the scope potentially which we have to affect people's lives.
Right.
I think that's the thing that really interests me. We've tested it on a lot, but a relatively small number of clients in a given geographical location. And, go and look at our reviews,
Yeah.
the way we impact people's lives, I mean, it's just phenomenal. And I feel so grateful and honored to be part of that process.
Yeah.
Like, genuinely, that's what I love about it. And that's why I'm constantly striving to be better and to find, which treatments, which direction, which blood tests we're offering, how can we keep improving, shifting the dial.
Yeah.
And I want to keep, I want to expand that out now. So the next plan is to go multiple site.
Right.
Yeah.
And do you think that's just UK first? I mean, I know you're quite excited about potentially doing some stuff overseas, or
Yeah, absolutely.
are you looking for partners in that way then? Do you see a partnership, sort of an international partner model being the one that could allow the brand to expand, or?
Yeah, potentially. As I say, we're still kind of looking into what model will be the right one for us.
Yeah.
So, but that's the plan, absolutely, to go multiple site in the UK and international.
Yeah.
Eventually as well. Because like I say, we've tested the market, and I just love helping people this way. And I think, genuinely, I want to shift the narrative on healthcare, first of all in the UK, and then expanding that out further.
In what way do you want to shift it? How what are you looking for in terms of the shift? What do you want to see happen?
So I want to see more people realize that simple things make a massive difference.
Right.
So before they get ill, let's test. Let's find out what's going on now. And again, going back to what you said about your blood test, you got a little bit worried when you saw these reds.
I did get a little bit worried. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie.
But then we got on the wellness consultation with each other, and then I explained to you, this is because, Paul, we're looking at optimizing your health.
Yeah.
This is why these things are in the red. You don't have diseases or conditions now. We're highlighting where the patterns could follow.
Yeah.
So if you don't do anything about these things now, this is where you could end up.
Yeah.
And I think that's what really excites me, because we can make interventions so much earlier.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's really what I'm passionate about. And that's why I want to continue to drive forward.
Yeah.
To educate and encourage people to look at what's going on in your body now. Where do I need to focus my attention?
Yeah.
And how can I improve things going forward?
I think that's, definitely kind of, for me, is prevention's better than cure, but it quite often takes us to have a massive health interruption before we get that memo.
Exactly. Yeah, this is what I mean. It's just, for all the advancements in medicine, it's still backwards loaded, isn't it? We wait until we're ill.
We wait until we're ill.
And then we're in a crisis point, and the interventions we're going to have to make are so much more severe than they would be, if it was just a simple nutrient deficiency that we picked up 3 years before. Sorry, just quickly, part of your test, I haven't really touched on it. We've formulated a genetic component to our testing now, which really excites me. So this is something that you only have to do once. Your biology can fluctuate and change over time, so it's good to track that. But your genetics don't change.
Okay.
So now, part of the test that you had, we can find out, are you genetically predisposed to not being able to methylate B vitamins, convert vitamin A into its active form, convert omega-3s into its active form. And once you have that information, you can choose to target your supplementation.
Do stuff differently.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And again, these are the things that over time, that will matter significantly. If you don't have that information and all of your life you haven't been able to convert vitamin A into its active form, you might start to see the ramifications of that in 10, 15, 20 years' time. So having that information, you can make really smart choices about, being targeted about your supplementation and where you need to focus your energy and attention on your health.
So what are 2 or 3 things that people can do right now if they're listening to the show that don't require them having to come into the clinic? Like, what are simple things that people can start to do to just optimize their health a bit more?
Lots of things. I mean, start from when you wake up in the morning. Don't pick up your phone straight away.
This is true.
Yeah. I would recommend having that away from your bedside table. If you're able to, open the curtains, get outside, first 10 to 15 minutes of your morning, get sunlight in your eyes.
Yeah.
This naturally lowers your cortisol levels, boosts your vitamin D. Ground if you can.
Yep.
Get your feet on the earth.
Yep.
This has lots of positive benefits throughout the body, reducing inflammation. Start the day with water. Mineralize electrolytes if you can.
Yeah, they've been a game changer for me, actually, just having electrolytes. I think the right electrolytes in water every day, honestly, it's been a complete game changer this year for me in terms of doing that.
Yeah. And this thing, you could be walking around, chronically dehydrated, and most people, we start the day with a coffee. So yeah, again, don't have your first coffee for maybe an hour and a half.
I think the data says you shouldn't have it for at least 30 minutes after you wake up, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
like I always like to do stretching and bit of yoga, a bit of meditation. So that's half an hour straight away. And then by the time you come down, it's 45 minutes pretty much
Yeah.
from when you wake up till the time you might enjoy your first addictive substance being caffeine, right?
Yeah, yeah. And that's the thing, like, have it for enjoyment, not because you need it.
Yeah.
That's the
Well,
key.
I think one of the things that came out of the blood test that was interesting for me was that I didn't realize there's a genetic component to being able to metabolize caffeine.
Correct. Yeah.
And, you know, I don't have much of that. So caffeine has a very disproportionate effect on me. Whereas I thought that was really interesting. You could actually kind of test for that.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's called the lifestyle nutrition DNA test. So as well as the vitamins I mentioned, we can also find out, is fasting a good idea for you?
Yeah.
Are you genetically predisposed to weight gain, to type 2 diabetes, to cholesterol? So again, it enables you to focus where your attention needs to be. So if you know that you're genetically predisposed to type 2 diabetes, guess what? Regulating your carbohydrate intake is going to be a really good idea for you moving forward.
Yeah. You treat an awful lot of entrepreneurs who, do you see a lot of burnout in the clinic?
Absolutely.
And what's your assessment of how that happens, why people get to that stage?
I think it's not prioritizing health, right? Ultimately, again, you know, going back to the example of everyone's obsessed about the numbers in their business, but not the MVP of the business.
Yeah. Well, that's true. I've always said that the you as the founder are the MVP, right? Like certainly in early stage businesses like yours, that's absolutely true.
Yes.
And therefore, if we have a really highly valuable asset on the team, wouldn't we want to look after that highly valuable asset? Just because it's you doesn't mean the business shouldn't look after you, right?
Yeah.
They absolutely should.
Yeah. And I think, you know, taking time out and giving importance to that should be part of your business journey. Yeah. Part of your entrepreneurial routine.
Yeah, well, it's part of the recharge process, isn't it? It's part of the recharging, which I think it's one of those lovely things about when you come to the clinic, it does feel very relaxing, which I think is a credit to you and the way you've designed it and laid it out and made it happen. And I love the way that you even got the kids involved as well with it. I think that's kind of like, it really does feel like there's a family element to it as well, right?
Yeah. Well, like you say, you know, they are extremely passionate. You know, hopefully my wife and I have showed them the path. And already at a young age, this is how they're thinking already, which is just great to inspire the future generation about how important this stuff is going to be going forward. And that's, you know, and that's ultimately what it's about, right? It's about people living happier, healthier, longer lives. We're all talking about lifespan, and we want to improve health span as well. And I think that's the challenge at the minute.
Yeah, because I think I've always been, you know, genuinely worried about. Look, I don't want to get older if I get worse. That doesn't seem like a very good trade. I don't want to live another 5 or 10 years and then be in a home and not able to function. And if that gets worse, then that's not a trade that I feel is a particularly good one, right? Because what I want to do is go, okay, great. How can I get older, get fitter, get healthier, stay healthier, have more energy, and, you know, be in my 70s or 80s and then have tons of energy like that and tons of wellness and tons of vitality, and not buy into the narrative that as you get older, you have to decline, because I think that's a lie that we've been sold on a massive level.
I totally agree. And that's one of the big kind of myths I want to dispel as well. There was no reason why your next 10 years can't be the best.
Yeah.
You know, if that's what you want and you focus your attention on it and you get the right advice and you do the right things, that's entirely possible. And I think that should be, you know, what everyone should be thinking about.
Yeah.
You know, not, as you say, you know, and again, you know, I'm 50, maybe I should slow down. I should expect this.
It's just conditioning. I think it's conditioning, and it's propaganda that we've been sold by people who tell us that's what should happen, right? Well, that's your belief. I don't have to buy it.
Yeah.
I want to ask you a couple of questions though before we wrap up, and I want to talk about, like, as a founder, I think quite often founders struggle with the idea, and certainly early stage scale ups, is how do you balance everything you're trying to do? So what have been some of the kind of best things you've done to put in place to get some time back, or to manage, you know, your very busy schedule? So like, what have been some of the top hacks and things that you've put in place that have really helped?
So I guess the first one was getting an admin team.
Yeah, good hire.
Yeah. That was amazing and a game changer. And I remember after 3 months, the lady who helps us for admin said, "I don't know how you managed this for the last 2 years on your own." And I was like, "No, that's why I brought you on board." So, but now we're up to four ladies that look after us.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, just amazing. And they do a great job handling all the bookings, the appointments, you know, email inquiries, all of that kind of stuff. So that's taken
Amazing.
care of, which is great. A marketing team, as I mentioned,
Yep.
which has become really important now as we're trying to improve our outreach so we can help more people. More latterly, a media team. So hopefully you might see some more videos of me out in the world, educating everyone about what we do and how we can help. And these are all things that have, enabled me to keep growing the business, but enabled me to keep some kind of balance, to my life. So, and of course, hiring people the right people to help in the clinic as well.
Yeah.
And I guess I'm that's probably a little bit more of a slow burner for me because I'm really passionate about what we do and I only want the right people in the business.
Yeah.
So I know, it took me ages to hire the first nurse.
Yeah, but that's okay.
Yeah.
But that's all right because I think you use the outsourcing as the way to get your time back, first of all, which I always think is a smarter play rather than in hiring. Just share with everybody the way you handle emails, because one of the challenges you face, and I think it can happen to other people as well, as you were scaling, was you were just getting swamped with emails. So we put in place a very simple strategy to help you deal with that. Can you just share how, because you've got that down to like 10 or 15 minutes a day now, max.
Oh, it's amazing. Yeah, I love it.
Share that with everyone, how you do that.
Yeah, so it's really simple. So a lovely lady screens all the emails for us on a daily basis, organizes them all into relevant folders, to be actioned, invoices to be paid, etc., etc. And then I just sit down on a Loom video at the end of each day. Loom, if those of you don't know, because I've only discovered recently, is a fantastic tool where you can kind of record your screen. And I didn't know about it, but
it's a game changer. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
It'll save you hours of your life.
Yeah, rather than doing a voice note and then them going, well, I think that's what he meant.
Yeah,
they can actually visually see it as well. And then 10 to 15 minutes on that a day, and that's it. Email's done. Simple as that.
And that's saving you 5 to 6 hours a week, right?
Yeah, incredible.
And I think sometimes entrepreneurs, we don't know what we don't know. And I think that's the value of having somebody else sometimes go, what's the friction point? Okay, by the way, did you know there's a tool here that could solve that? And I think the other thing you've done recently as well is to bring in some outside, part-time financial help to look at all the numbers and analyze that. And,
correct.
Somebody from my community coming in to help you with that, because as you grow, you need to have more control on that and better systems for that.
Absolutely.
So I think actually, if you look at your organizational chart, you've actually probably got an awful lot more people on it than you realize.
Yes. Yeah.
Even though the actual core team that's helping you run the clinic is really only 3 of you now, right?
4. Yeah.
4. Yeah. So like it's that's quite tight, but actually your expansive team, if you took the VAs, the outsourced, the VAs, Malcolm from the finance point of view, you talk about the media team, there's probably another 8 to 10 sort of fractional people that are helping you externally.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I think that's a smart play as well. And I often say, like, once you get up to about 500,000, at the point, once you start to go from 500,000 to 1 million, it's then going to require probably another 1 or 2 people in the organization to start to actually be, employed to help get you out of the next level of boxes.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing. I think now it's about staff in the clinic to free me up again. Yeah, to explore what the next opportunities are for the business, really.
Yeah, and to find partners to open clinics with, and all of the things that I know you want to do to make this the number one wellness brand in the UK, right? I mean, that's the first stop on the journey, anyway, right?
Absolutely, that's the vision.
So what? Obviously, you've been to a number of my events, and we run obviously Scale Up Summit, we run retreat and stuff, and you've been to a number of my events. What impact have they had on you when you've come to some of our events?
That's a really great question. I think in the early days, very aspirational for me. I was like, oh, okay, this is what you can achieve.
Yeah.
Like, again, just open my eyes up to this whole world that I'd never been exposed to before in my, pharmacy life and, clinician life. And I was like, this is amazing. And then just looking ahead at, oh, well, he's turning over how much,
Yeah.
and then starting to understand, okay, well, how did they get there?
Yeah.
What are they doing? And literally, that's why I think what you do is amazing. Being able to get so many people in a room at all different stages of the journey, there's always someone to look and go, okay, I could learn a lot from that.
Yeah.
And whether that's personal development, business development,
true,
it doesn't matter. I know you focus your attention on all aspects of it, which is what I love, because I feel that's something that I didn't understand, is that you have to develop yourself as well.
Yeah.
To be ready to do those things. And I guess that's something that I probably wasn't aware of or underlooked. And I guess I've learned that as much as anything.
Yeah.
And it's always, the events always seem to come at a right time when it's very easy as an operator, founder, to get lost in the day-to-day stuff and be like, totally lost sight of where I was going or that kind of thing. And I think it's always a really good reset and just going right. And I think the more of the events I've attended and the more time we've spent together, the easier that's become. I find myself getting lost in my head less
really,
and being more focused on what it is that we're doing day to day, or not. I guess letting the day-to-day mundane stuff knock you from left to right.
Yeah, it doesn't cloud you. You're able to stay on point, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Hold the vision, do the work. Was that the one?
Hold the vision, do the work, enjoy the journey. Yeah. That's the one.
I knew something like
that's
that.
the mantra. Hold the vision, do the work, enjoy the journey, right? You do have to do the work, right? Yeah. It's no good running around holding the vision and not actually doing any work, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't.
Exactly. And that is another key point, because it's very easy to go, oh my God, I've got all this stuff to do. And then you just take a step back and you think, what an idiot. Like, I was stuck in a pharmacy working 10 hours a day, in a job that I wasn't passionate about anymore.
Yeah.
And now look what I've created.
Yeah.
And you're going to be upset that you're now busy.
Oh, hang on a second. I've built a £500,000 business and it's growing and I'm going to be busy. Yeah, you're going to be busy. Yeah. Like, don't get in. If you try you are going to be busy.
Yeah, exactly.
Without question. But would you rather be busy working and pursuing your own dreams or building someone else's? Right. I'd rather be building my own, right?
Exactly.
Without question. So what's your definition of like a grown-up business now? Because obviously you've gone from literally startup in the now famous, we'll have to get photos of it obviously up on the podcast, but the now famous kind of cabin/shed where you started out to, right?
Yeah.
It's a serious scaling business, right? Like you're on a growth curve. You'll be breaking 1 million, I should think, within the next 12 to 18 months, right? I mean, that's the trajectory now. And it's not an overnight thing either. That will have been a sort of 4-year journey for you, right?
Absolutely.
And which is, I think, is inspiring for someone if they're listening to this or watching this. It's like 4 years from now, you could be here, you could be further than here, right? But like, you have to start. And greatness comes with actually just starting. You have to get started.
Yeah.
So what do you say to somebody who's, 2 questions actually. First of all, thinking of getting started, and maybe should I do it? Shouldn't I do it? What would be your advice to somebody who's thinking of starting any kind of business, but is sitting on the fence, maybe going, oh, should I do it?
I think you need to ask yourself what's important to you and what's the worst that can happen, because that's kind of basically how I ended up doing what I did. Like I said, I almost talked myself out of it. My trajectory could have been very different, and I don't think if it hadn't been for COVID, I might not have been brave enough to do it. I don't know.
Really?
Yeah. But I just enabled, I guess, when you're faced with something so kind of, life altering as that period of time for all of us, you then think, what is actually important to me? Why am I here? Like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Like, am I going to waste this time being scared of something that may or may not even happen?
Yeah.
Or am I going to go, oh, actually, let's just try and give this a go and see what happens?
Yeah. So
once I got over that fear, then there was no kind of holding me back. I was just like, okay, I'm going to commit to this.
Yeah.
And like I say, it wasn't all roses. Like I say, I missed one out as well. So it was the mindfulness meditation.
Yeah.
Then there was futsal. I'm a football coach as well in my spare time.
Yeah.
For my many children's football teams. But that led to kind of exploring paid coaching work as well. So I tried a couple of things first.
But develop skills, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
But that develops skills, right?
Yeah.
So even if you didn't end up with that as a full-time career, that's still, I mean, you coach, I think in a way you almost coach the clients who come in around health, right?
Yeah.
So that coaching skill is actually now being deployed. It's just being deployed in a different environment.
Exactly that.
But I absolutely get out there, get experience, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Get in the game, frankly. Just even if it's only 1 day a week or 1 day a month or whatever it was when you started out. It's like, just get in the game.
Yeah.
You can't learn if you're not playing. Like, you can stand on the sidelines and you can watch videos all you like, but fundamentally you have to get in the game and get a bit dirty and get a bit messy and get knocked about a bit and go, okay, right, yeah, I like that or don't like that. Actually, that's definitely not my thing. I want to go in this. You don't know unless you get the experiences. It doesn't matter how many podcasts you listen to. At some point, you have to take action on this stuff and actually get in the game.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Without question.
Yeah. And that's what I did. And like I say, and I genuinely, once I stepped out of the previous world I was in, I was just like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
Because because I say I've got a great inner drive, I believe, and I just thought there's no sort of end to the possibilities now. I can go as far as I want to with this.
Yeah.
As long as I keep driving it forward.
Yeah.
And that's amazing.
But that's when you find your real passion, isn't it? That's when you tap into the the why power.
Yeah.
You've really found it when you're doing it for that, like, because you love what you do.
Yeah.
You know, the old phrase that if you love what you do, you never work another day in your life, right?
100%. And that's the thing. If I'm, basically I'm just like hanging out in my clinic, just, helping people as best I can.
Yeah.
And then when I'm not, maybe I'll have a treatment or, jump in the oxygen chamber, come on podcasts.
Yeah. But that's the point, isn't it, really? And I think find something you're passionate about, find something that you would be doing and studying and being into, even if you weren't being paid.
Yeah.
And then figure out how you can monetize that, and where is there a market that will pay you to deliver that service and has people who have a problem that you can solve.
Yeah.
And that's the basis of any great business. It's like, do something you're passionate about, find people who you can add value to and solve a problem for, and then just get busy testing early stage, test everything you can test.
Yeah.
And get messy, figure it out, get feedback, refine it. And then when you've got, and I think this is the key part for me, when you found the formula, then you went for it. So you went very quickly from, really in real terms, from the first, the cabin to the first clinic to the,
wellness center.
Yeah. Wellness center is a relatively short journey, sort of 3 years, right?
Yeah.
So like, you scaled that quite fast once you went, right, I'm all in, this is it, let's go. And I think when you make that decision, one of the keys is you've got to commit.
Yeah.
You've got to commit to go, right, this is it, I'm all in. I'm not still, playing on the side with this other thing in case it doesn't work out, or tinkering with this and doing that on the side. I'm like, no, this is the thing, I found it, let's go. And then you've got to focus.
100%. Yeah.
Because that's the only reason you scale something like that.
I agree. And I think that's all aspects of life as well. Like, I've really just got like tunnel vision on what I want to do. And like I said, that comes down to things that may be a distraction in your life. You mentioned alcohol or whatever it is, those kind of ththings. I think you have to be really just dial in on what it is you're trying to achieve and be all in.
Yeah. I think it's really funny because sometimes other people will say, oh, you're no fun anymore. It's like, well, no, what you're actually saying is I'm really focused and disciplined. And that's great. If that's your perception, great. But I'm really focused on what I'm trying to do. And guess what? If I'm really focused on it, then I'm going to cut out distractions and I'm going to eliminate stuff that it might be important to you, but really isn't important to me anymore.
Yeah.
And I think you just got to be okay with the fact that, look, I'm doing this and I'm focused on this. And that means some other stuff's going to have to go, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So what's your definition of grown up business for you? What's your take on it?
That's another good question. I guess, sitting here today, I guess now makes me feel like I'm starting to have a grown-up business. Like, my clinic's open right now.
Yep.
There's people being treated.
Yep.
As we sit here talk.
Cool.
And that's a really great step forward.
Big step.
Yeah. And so I guess the wider point on that is that a business that can exist outside of you.
Yeah.
In terms of where I am on my scale-up journey, that's the biggest thing I can say in terms of what I perceive to be a grown-up business.
Yeah.
If I'm not doing the emails, or if I'm not booking appointments, or does the business still work?
Yeah.
So I guess it's taking what I had in my head and making it processable and scalable for other people to manage.
Yes.
And that's really what I've learned over the last year or two.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I believe is a grown-up business.
Yeah.
I can sit here and talk to you today while the business is still running.
Yeah. And I think that's a great definition. It's like once you've built an entity that can start to run and scale without you, you're on the road to having a grown-up business, I think, without question. So yeah, I love that. Brilliant. We'll drop a link for people below to your socials so people can check in. Where's the best place for people to find out about NutriZen?
Yeah, so Instagram, NutriZen Wellness Centre. Right, obviously follow me on LinkedIn as well.
Yep.
And Facebook. And we've also got a website, nutrizenIV.co.uk, which you can find out more about all our services.
Fantastic.
And how you can book in to get yourself tested.
Yep.
Which obviously we highly recommend.
We do. And I'll drop a link below. I'll get the team to put a link in the show notes to the blood test where people can find out about the blood tests, more about it. And, if they want to book in for one, they can do it through that link, just because I think I like the fact that you start with data. I think it's the same as when I assess a business and its scale-up potential is we start with data, we measure everything, we look at everything and go, okay, great, where is everything now? Let's baseline it, and then we can grow it.
Exactly.
You have to act on fact rather than on what you think or feel might be right. You do need some science behind some of what you certainly do, and certainly some of what I do.
Absolutely. And that's the thing. We test the data, then we'll rebuild, and then,
what was it, 3 words?
reset, rebuild, and thrive.
There you go. Yeah. That's it. Brilliant stuff. Listen, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, Ed. Hope you've enjoyed it. It's been great to chat to you today.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Will you come back in a couple, maybe in another year or so, and we'll give an update on where the journey is and how the clinic's grown and maybe how many more sites you've got? And I'd love to check in and see how the journey's progressing over the next couple of years.
I'd love to. Absolutely love to.
Great stuff.
Look forward to it.
Make sure you subscribe and share with 2 people who you think will get value from this podcast. And thanks again for being on the show.
Thank you very much indeed for having me. Cheers.
That concludes this episode of the Grown Up Business Podcast. I hope that got you fired up and ready to grow. The key thing though is to remember you get paid on what you get done. So write down the top 3 actions from the show and make sure that you implement those in the next 72 hours. Hey, and while you're at it, make sure you click the links and the resources below this episode to claim free growth resources to help you build the business you desire and deserve. I'll see you on the next episode.